Hoop Dreams, the podcast, an Unlearning Network production.
Joining us today on the Hoop Dreams podcast. Today was the 12th pick of the Los Angeles Lakers in the 1993 NBA draft. Not only that, he's an NCAA championship of the 1993 Tar Heels, coached by one of the greatest legendary coaches to ever coach the game, Dean Smith at North Carolina University. He was Virginia's Mr. Basketball and a McDonald's All-American. Man, we happy to have on the show George Lynch on the Hoop Dreams podcast. I'm Will Gates. That's my dog,
Arthur Agee.
Man, welcome to the show. Glad you can join us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely,
show,
man. This is an honor. I'm saying it's an honor, George, because see, I remember everything about your career because we was coming up around the same time. So this is an honor, man, for us to have you on the show. But I want to jump right into this thing, man. When was the first time you watched Hoop Dreams, and do you remember where you were at?
Man, let me see. Where was I in Hoop Dreams? I think I know I was still playing. I don't recall where I was, but I was still trying to make a dollar.
When you saw it, did it feel like you had it had an impact on your basketball career going forward?
Yeah, it brought back memories. The grind that it takes to be first to be a college athlete, to be highly recruited, to be a professional athlete, and to maintain in that professional ranks. It brought back all those great memories, the good and the bad.
Absolutely, absolutely. Man, how did you fall in love with the game of basketball?
Back then, we played a lot of sports. I didn't like baseball. I got hit one time with a baseball, and I couldn't throw the bat at the pitcher. I tried to play soccer. It was always outside, winter. It was cold, frostbit, was never dressed properly for soccer. And then I was a pretty good football player, but I couldn't pick up weight. I was probably like 6'3", 6'4", 160, 70 pounds. And, trying to run the ball out of the backfield and play quarterback just wasn't a good combination for me.
I know that's right.
So it was more okay. I want to be inside, and I'm too tall, so I need to play another sport. So basketball was always, was something I did with my stepfather. He introduced me to the game, got to play with older guys, and it was always. You could always find a pickup game, a 1-on-1, 2-on-2 at the park. And all my buddies, because they were smaller, they all liked to play basketball.
Okay, look, speaking of that park, where was some of the parks that you guys played at coming up in Roanoke?
So in Roanoke, one of the parks that I kind of honed my skills playing 21. These kids today don't know what 21 is.
No idea.
But yeah, no idea. And they had those chain nets.
Yes.
You hit the chain.
Yes.
It always made that nice sound. It tore you. You couldn't play with a leather basketball because it tore a leather basketball.
Yes.
But so there was Hurt Park. That was the neighborhood I grew up in. There was, Walsena. There was, several other parks. Woodrow Wilson had a park. The middle school I played at. We used to make our rounds after when I got to about 15, it was probably about 5 or 6 of us from the neighborhood. And our goal was to dominate every park in Roanoke.
Oh.
And I swear, by the time we were 16, we owned every park.
Are you serious?
So they saw y'all coming. They was like, oh, here they come.
Yeah. Yep. It's funny because I got a 15-year-old that's kind of trying to be on the circuit and play basketball. These kids, nowadays, if it ain't organized, if there's not a referee on the floor, these kids don't play.
Yeah.
Hey, does your son get outside and play a little bit? Does he hit the
Man,
playground?
I try to get him outside, man. He don't want nothing to do with that asphalt. It's funny. It's funny because I'll be watching, all these kids now, if you go in the gym, they looking at their phones.
Yep.
They have no clue on what their opponents do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, when I grew up, I could watch somebody run up and down the court twice and tell you everything about this game.
Absolutely.
These kids, they have no clue now.
Wow.
Well, they don't play no defense. They don't play any defense, so it doesn't matter.
Right. Right.
It ain't enough time to play defense because they pulling it from half court.
No.
They can't.
Exactly.
So, man, our show is a little bit different too. I want to hit you with some basketball really quick to get you comfortable before I ask this next question, because we want to know the origin story of George Lynch. Talk us about your childhood, where you was born and raised in Roanoke, Virginia. What was it like?
My mother and father was divorced at an early age. She was remarried to my stepfather. He introduced me to the game of basketball. And then she later got a divorce from him. And, I was back and forth between my mom, my stepfather, because I had a younger sister who wanted to, stay with her dad. So I used to stay with her. And so I used to go back and forth, didn't know, if I was poor, if I was wealthy, middle class. My father had a great job at the post office, which was what I thought at that time. My stepfather, he was a fireman and a postman. He had two jobs. And my mother was, she was one of those assisted living nurses. Not really a nurse, but a nurse's assistant. So she was a caregiver. And so we went back and forth. I went back and forth between those three homes. I had a great life. Like I said, I grew up, when I stayed with my mom, we lived in the projects in Hurt Park, and there was kids everywhere. I had three sisters. So anytime I went to the projects, I had cousins, male cousins, and then there was male friends who was around ready to play any game: baseball, soccer, football, basketball. So as a kid, you didn't, it was before all the, I think Atari had just came out.
Well, you going way back.
So that's so that's my childhood. So we were always, if I wasn't in school, I was playing sport. And then by the time I got to middle school, I started to show some promise in basketball. And, by my sophomore year, basketball was looking pretty promising. I started getting recruited a little bit. And then the end of my junior year, after we won the state championship in Roanoke, I went up to Flint Hill Prep. And that's where I really got baptized to some real basketball.
Flint Hill Prep, absolutely.
Did your sisters play any sports?
No, they didn't. They didn't play any sports, man. I think they cheered, might have played a little soccer, but that was it.
What was that difference from the projects than from the suburbs in your area?
Well, the projects, it was tons of kids. Where my dad lived, both my fathers, my father and my stepfather, it wasn't really any kids around. So I always enjoyed going to my mom's house. And, in the projects, your mom live in one apartment, your grandmother live in another. You got an aunt and everybody else. So it was always family around when you go to when I went to my mom's house.
Absolutely. And actually some of the best times, because
oh yeah, it was. Like you said, if you could go outside and you have something to do until the street lights came on.
That's right.
Have your butt in the house when the street lights come on, right, Will?
Yeah, did we?
Yeah.
Then we was like, which street lights we talking about? The ones?
Right.
But I tell you, man, I was thinking about what you just said too. Just growing up in the neighborhood, man, growing up in the projects, because Agee and I, man, we grew up in the projects. And do you think that built you in any kind of way?
Oh yeah, I had my first fist fight in the project. So it kind of showed me, how to not take a lot of crap from anyone. It showed me. It kind of always kept me humble because that first fight, I really didn't want to hurt anyone.
Right.
but I didn't want to get hurt.
Right.
And it also showed me it was the neighborhood bully. You know, he was the same age as us, picked on everybody else. I was new to the neighborhood, and it taught me not to be a bully. This guy used to come around and pick on everyone, take our balls, and then, like I said, that first time, you know, you really don't want to hurt anybody in your first fight. So, you know, I just did enough to keep him off of me.
Yeah.
But he won the first fight, if the kids in the neighborhood tell you, because he was on top. He was on top the longest.
That's how you win it. That's how you win it. He was ever on top.
Yeah.
So everybody come and pull him off, and he looked like he won. Yes.
Yeah. So I think I waited 2 years for that next fight against him.
I'm gonna say we can relate to that so much, man, because that's kind of like the neighborhood drama in a sense. It's like, you know, some use sports to get out. Others, man, because they couldn't get connected with sports, kind of got stuck going in a different way. But I want to ask you, man, you know, Harold, I call him Agee. Some call him Tuss. People used to call me Will G, or they call me Thrill. Growing up, every kid wanted a nickname. What did they call George Lynch? What was the George Lynch nickname?
Man, hey, if you from Roanoke, everyone know my nickname. So it's funny, man, because I kind of lost the nickname when I got to college. But my dad, man, he was about 6'6", 200, and you know, my dad was a big guy. And he gave everyone a nickname. And my nickname was Head, Head.
Get out of here.
I don't know if it was head of the household or because my head was bigger than the rest of my body. It was one of those five, man. I had 5 different reasons why he called me Head. But everybody, my sister's name was Lil Bit. Man, everybody had a nickname. Just put it that way.
And couldn't get away from it, huh?
Couldn't get away from it. But if you in Roanoke and you ask anybody, y'all know who Head is, they'll tell you.
Even to this day.
Even to this day. At least, well, I'll say between the ages of 30 and I'm 50. Maybe so 30 to 65 and up, they know who Head is.
All we gotta say is y'all know who Head is, and they'll let us know.
Yeah. If they from Roanoke, they might not even know my real name.
Wow.
That's a real name there, boy. But they don't know. You know you got a real nickname when they don't know what your real name is.
Yep.
Hey, George, growing up in the neighborhood on them basketball courts, man, like you said, you used to go to every court and knock them down. Was there any players that's from your area that also made it to the NBA or made it out?
You know, my high school team in Roanoke, Virginia, the year we won the state championship, we were ranked in USA Today top 5. We had 5 players go Division I. Curtis Blair, who's an NBA official now. Russell Turner, who's the head coach at UC Irvine. Percy Covington played at VMI. Bernard Basham ended up playing he played football at Virginia Tech. He was a DN. And there was another guy named Melvin Davis who played at a small school in South Carolina. So we had a great high school team. Man, look, we beat Oak Hill Academy. We beat DeMatha with Gerard Mustaf out of the DC area. We beat Alonzo Mourning out of Indian River.
Wow.
This was all in the same year. We beat Brian Stiff, who played at UVA.
Yes.
We beat Terry Kirby, who played he played football and basketball at UVA.
Wow.
Darren Hancock, who's from Georgia, who ended up going to I think he played at Kansas for a couple years.
He did.
Man, that basketball team, we'd have stood up to anybody in the country.
Y'all didn't normally play them. They not in y'all conference. Why did y'all play all these guys that year?
So you know how every year you have that little Thanksgiving, Christmas tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to a tournament. It's crazy because my son is about to play in it this year, Arby's Classic in Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
The Arby's Classic had we were from Virginia. They had 3 teams from Virginia: Brian Stiff, Brunswick, Terry Kirby out of Hampton, Virginia, and then they had Darren Hancock was out of Griffin, Georgia. Malcolm Mackey, who played at Georgia Tech, he was out of Tennessee.
Malcolm
and
Mackey,
we played against. Yeah, we had 4 or 5 games that year. Every team that we beat in that tournament ended up winning the state championship in their state.
What? Are you what?
Yeah. And then we came home. We played again because the conference schedule. We had a conference rivalry. Win Fleming. That was the one loss we had that year. They beat us. We came back from that Arby's Classic. We had played against 5 teams who won the state championship. We were just dead tired, and they beat us. Coming back from that, we ended up getting revenge. We beat them in the next game. We went on to the state finals where we played Indian River, Alonzo Mourning's team, and then we ended up playing a team out of Haymarket, Virginia, for the state championship. We had a tough schedule that year. The coach knew we were going to be good, so he put it on thick. He was taking all challenges.
How was that transition for you? Because you coming from your public school, but then you're going to a different high school. How was that?
So the end of my junior year, we won the state championship. And I'm looking around, and everybody on the team was seniors.
What?
And I was like, man, yeah. We had 4 starters. They were all seniors. And I was the 5th. I was the under junior. And I was like, man, I ain't got nobody coming back. I got to find somebody to play with. So I thought about Oak Hill Academy, but at the time, Oak Hill was a school that kids went to when they were getting in trouble. And Oak Hill was probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours from my hometown. And my uncle and my dad did some research. And like, nah, you don't want to go to Oak Hill. There's another school, Flint Hill Prep, up in Northern Virginia. I had an aunt that lived in the D.C. area. So I ended up going up there, and the exposure I got, let me tell you. So that same summer, I'm in D.C. as a junior.
Right.
My summer league team was Lonzo Mourning, Dikembe Mutombo, Mark Tillman, Michael Tate.
Yes.
Michael Tate was probably out of Oxon Hill, Maryland. And who else? Man, we played against Sherman Douglas. We played against, man, everybody was playing in that. If you went to Maryland, any of the schools in that DC, DMV area, you played in the Kennel League. And that was, I'm telling you, that was some of the best basketball I played.
What year was this?
So you say this
summer? This was 90. This was 89. This was 88. 1988. Man, and so that was when the drug dealer, the big drug dealer in DC area. Yep. What was his name? Edmund
Rayford Edmund.
Yeah, man. Oh man, everybody was in the stand. Big John out of John Thompson. And before North Carolina started recruiting me, I wanted to go to Maryland. But in 87 was when the Len Bias stuff happened.
Right.
86. Yeah, it was 86. Yeah. So, and they never recovered, man. So that's why I wore number 34. I was a big Len Bias.
Really?
Yeah. Huge Len Bias fan. I was ready to go to Maryland, man. Play for left.
So how was that? How was your team built when you got to Flint?
So when I got to Flint Hill, I played with Randolph Childress.
Oh, for what?
Yeah,
what?
Me and Randolph Childress, Aaron Bain.
Damn.
And we had 4 McDonald's All-Americans on the team.
So it's safe to say you made the right move.
Oh yeah. It was a whole nother level because, I had never been, when I was in the public school, we didn't have a running program, we didn't have a weightlifting program. You just out there playing on national talent. But when I got to this program, this was a national power. They had, Dennis Scott had played there.
3D? Oh, wow.
Ronnie Thompson was there before me. I think we had a math class together when I got there my junior year. So they had just won, 2 years before I got there, they had just won the national championship.
Wow.
Yeah, Stu Vetter, Hall of Famer coach, Kevin Sutton, who's at Florida Gulf Coast right now. Yeah, man, that was some good basketball. If I hadn't have made that decision, I don't think I would have played at North Carolina.
That is amazing, man. I was thinking about that too, man, because I want to keep it there for a second. As you're going throughout early stages of your playing career, whether it was high school, college, or even just the playground, who was the guy that you said, you know what, I got to get that guy. I got to beat that guy. That dude in my way. I got to overcome that guy. Who was that? If it's no player, one player?
Man, it was so many. It was so many because, my stepdad played at a small college I think it was in South Carolina. And so when I went to the gym with him, it was always older guys. It was Mickey Hardy, who played at Virginia Tech, Ralph Wright. It was some older guys I looked up to. I was like, man, there was one guy I used to play in the park. His name was Darryl Rubin, but he was in the park. I'm like, when do you go to class? Because he was in the park so much. I don't even think he finished high school, man, but he was probably one of the best players, definitely in the park. And then, growing up, there was some twins, Raymond and Damon Williams. They ended up, they played at William Fleming Rivalry High School, but one of them went to, I think one of them went to VMI. Not for sure where the other one went, but they could shoot the basketball, man. They were great high school players. Those were the two guys that was at the time was highly recruited before my class of guys that we won the state championship came through. And so those were some of the names, but I definitely remember watching those guys play at the park. They were playing above the rim. They had a sweet jumper. And if you could shoot outside, you had a jump
That's
shot.
right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And I couldn't shoot outside. That's why I was a rebounder.
When did you see your game go to the next level to be able to be recruited by one of them blue blood schools? When did you take that leap?
When I went up to Flint Hill, and I'm in my first practice. Now, before we practiced, we had a running program, and I swear we probably ran 5 miles that day in the running program. Then we had to lift weights. This was before practice, so we were in the weight room for 45 minutes, and I used to play around with the weights with my dad. Never really serious about it. Man, at the end of that practice, I swear, I laid out on the floor in the gym for at least an hour before I could get up, get my bags, get to the house, shower. And I swear, man, I slept. I don't even think I ate, man. I slept. I had to sleep for 10 hours, man. And then that's when I really saw my game take that next step. The summer of my junior year, my body started to change because we were lifting. And back then, no gyms had air conditioning.
None.
So you were sweating. I mean, it was like, man, looked like you jumped in a swimming pool with your practice gear on. That's when my game took that next
And
jump.
your confidence grew as well?
Yes, of course. Anytime I think when kids lift, you get stronger. You can play with your shirt off.
Absolutely.
Your confidence go up.
Absolutely. When you go shirts and skins and you don't mind going skins, you all good.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly.
So you go to Flint Hill, you had a private school. Agee and I, we were at private schools, and man, some of the things we ran into is more prevalent now. We probably wasn't recognizing as much back then, but did you run into some racial issues at school? Did you run into some things that you can reflect on and say, man, that probably wasn't right?
Not, being in the DC area, that was the first time I saw Latin people. It was the first time I saw Asians. So I really didn't see that in the when I got to Flint Hill, if I look back when I was in Roanoke, there were certain sides of the tracks the white folks lived on, and certain side, that the black families. In my projects, it was all black. There was no Hispanics, no Asians, no white. So I really didn't get introduced to any type of racial type atmosphere, man, actually until I got to Carolina. When I got to North Carolina, and it really wasn't, on campus. It was the first time I ever dated a white girl.
Wow.
And her father didn't like it. I mean, he was fine. She brought me over for dinner, but once he found out that we were dating, he was like, nah.
He said, you can score them buckets on the court, but you ain't scoring over here.
That was the first time I was exposed to any type of, and I would say it was probably because I was an athlete. I think sometimes when you're an athlete, you're not looked at the same way. But that was the first time I was exposed to it.
So, G, who recruited you from, North Carolina? Who was that assistant that came knocking on your door?
It's funny because when I was at Patrick Henry, my guidance counselor at the time was Dick Kepley, and he played at North Carolina. And he was always telling, Coach Smith and Coach Guthridge that, hey, there's a kid here in Roanoke that you guys need to take a look at. But because of the conference I played in, Dean Smith didn't think that I could play in the ACC at that high level. And then when I went up to DC and I was playing in the summer league and I was playing against those, the Catholic League teams every weekend, twice a week, and my numbers didn't change. He was like, yeah, he can play. And then, Bill Guthridge came up to see me, Phil Ford. And then once they got the approval that I was good enough to play, Coach Smith finally came and watched me practice at Flint Hill Prep.
What was that like? Sitting over there, he there for you?
And it was, it's funny because someone else asked me this question in the interview. So you in practice, in our practices, you would have, Raleigh Massimino was there. I mean, because Aaron Bain, Villanova, you had Randolph Childress. I mean, Stu Vetter was sending kids to Georgetown. I mean, all over the country. UCLA, Cameron Dollar played at Flint Hill Prep.
Remember Cameron Dollar?
Kevin Durant played for Stu Vetter.
Really?
Rick Barnes, I think he might have been at where was Rick Barnes at? He was at Clemson. So Rick Barnes was in the gym. All the ACC schools and Big East schools was in there.
Wow.
Jim Boeheim. But when Dean came in, it was like the Godfather, man. Everybody, all the teachers, the janitor, everybody was at practice.
Wow.
When Dean was in there. Yeah, man. It was a different. He was a different cut, man. He was that suit that you pulled out on those special occasions.
Let me ask you this, man, because I remember at St. Joe's, it was like that, man. We go in the gym and just like you, Big John was up there. We had coaches from DePaul there, Illinois there, Marquette, Wisconsin, you name it. They were in the gym. How were the guys? Because when we saw the coaches come in the gym, everybody gang turned up. Did y'all gang turn up?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, man. The walk on. I'm like, man, come on, man. But, hey, it was crazy because, it happened so often that practices was always intense because you had myself, you had Randolph Childress, you had Aaron Bain. We had another cat, Frazier Johnson. He ended up going to Temple, 6'10" kid. So, and then you had younger guys that were coming behind you because Randolph Childress was a year behind me. And they were just as good. So, I mean, and then you had to compete. You had to, in order to keep your time, there was no let-ups. So practices was, man, look, man, we got after it every practice.
Wow.
And so, but when you could tell when certain coaches was in the gym, you know, Stu Vetter had his coaching hat on, boy. He was, boy, man, it was just he was another beast. He changed more than the players changed because he really started coaching.
I was going to ask you that. I was going to say the coaches started coaching harder. It's like, man, exactly. Are y'all auditioning for a job? So when you finally met Dean, Coach Smith, what was your impressions of him?
Man, you know, because my stepfather was a huge Carolina fan, I remember watching a Virginia-Carolina game, Georgetown, the NCAA tournament when Mike hit the shot. You know, I was a young kid. I was probably 9 or 10 at that time. So he would always talk about Coach Smith because he, you know, bringing in Charlie Scott and Al Wood, being the first ACC coach to bring in a black athlete on scholarship. He was already one of those figures that you couldn't really, I mean, you thought he was God. And so it's funny, on my visit to Chapel Hill, I'm in the car, Coach Smith picked me up from the airport. And, you know, he's talking, he said, if there's anything you'd like to listen to, you can change the station. You know, because his job, he wanted to he already knew that kids get in the car around him, he made them nervous. To the day that man passed away, God bless his soul, I was always nervous around Coach Smith.
Wow.
So I'm in the car in the what song was it? The Agee album came out. I got the cassette tape in my pocket. And he was like, you got any music you want to listen to? You got to, you know. So he trying to make me feel comfortable at home. I said, yeah, I got this tape, but I don't know if I should play it. He said, oh, sure, you can play it. Whatever you want to listen to. I listen to everything. Man, I was pumping that Easy in there. He started bobbing his head. He said, I like these lyrics. He said, the beats are good, but I don't know about the lyrics. And I was like, oh, man. I said, this man, he ain't going to recruit me. He ain't bringing me back to campus.
You done introduced Dean to the West Coast, baby.
Yep. You know, he had that BMW. You know, they had a nice sound system in their BMW, so we turned it up a little bit.
Right.
And he let me play some Easy Eve, man. I was impressed.
Did you remember the first song that came on?
Man, I think it was
We Want Easy.
No, it had a little bit more F words. It was some cussing.
Cruising down the street in my 6'4".
Yeah, but hey, yeah, they had the beats going though, man. But
hey George, how many visits did you have? How many schools did you boil it down to? How many did you take?
Well, you know, of course I wanted to go to Maryland, and then playing in DC in the summer league in McDonough Arena. I thought the arena, you know, the Georgetown campus, it was more that city vibe. It really wasn't that campus feel. And I knew I wanted to play in the ACC. So it's crazy. You had 5 visits. I took 3. I went to UVA, I went to Virginia Tech, and I went to Carolina. Okay. Those were my 3 visits.
Wow.
Yeah. So you didn't even look at Maryland.
Well, because they had never recovered, man. You know, I think Lefty had left, and then Bob Wade came in, and then I think he was there for like a hot second, maybe a year or 2, and then Gary Williams came in. So I was like, man, I can't go there. And you know, the DC for a long time, they never recovered from that situation, Len Bias and the cocaine and all that stuff. And that was, you know, I came out in the 90s, 89, 90s. So that was right there in the thick of it. So I went back, I went to Chapel Hill, man. And the reason, you know, UVA, I wanted to get away. All my cousins went to UVA. I had a lot of friends from high school go to UVA. And, you know, a lot of the guys from Virginia was going to North Carolina, like J.R. Reed. I watched J.R. Reed play AAU basketball when I was in high school, in middle school. And I was like, man, he going to North Carolina. Kevin Madden, who was another player.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Grant Hill was a year behind me, and he wasn't going, you know, to UVA. My teammate Aaron Bain, you know, he was talking about going to Villanova. So no one was really going to UVA. And I was like, man, I'm not going there if nobody else is going. Who am I play with?
Right. So what was the final decision that pushed you over? Because I'm sure even being back home, everybody expects you to pick either Tech or UVA. What was the final push that said, you know what?
Well, it's funny, man, because Virginia Tech, I had a cousin that played high school basketball with me. Now, he went to LA with me when I got drafted. He lived with me for like 5 years. Virginia Tech offered him a scholarship. They said, well, if you come to Virginia Tech, we'll give your cousin a scholarship. But man, the Dean Dome had just opened. It had probably been open 4 years before I got there. And man, I walked in that place, man, and I looked at all that Carolina blue. And at the time, it was the largest arena in the ACC.
What?
I was like, man, I'm playing here. You know, you walk through that tunnel, you know, you got Rick Fox, Kevin Madden. You come back. I came back in the summer. You got Michael Jordan playing pickup. Sam Perkins. You know, J.R. Reed, Kenny Smith. I mean, those were the pickup games. I'm like, man, shit, this is where I'm coming. If I'm trying to be a pro, I want to play against them every day. So that's why I chose North Carolina.
When you went on your visit to North Carolina, who was your
my host was King Rice and Rick Fox.
King Rice with the high top fade, baby.
Yeah, man. Hey, King and Rick, man, they had all the girls, man. I'm like, man, these guys loving it. And look, they didn't get in any bar on campus. I was like, man, they showed me a good time.
That's dope. God.
Rick Fox doing his thing. So man, you gotta take us a little deeper on this though, man. How was them summer league games though for you?
In the Kenner League or in Chapel Hill?
At Chapel Hill.
Man, look, Mike came back and ran everything, man. Black Jesus. I think out of the 4 years, man, he lost one pickup game.
What?
I ain't believing that, G.
So look, man, I'm telling you. So they would come back, the pros would come back, and it's the pros against the college guys. And the college guys would be, you know, so my team was me, Rick Fox, King Rice, Hubert Davis, and Pete Chilcutt. Right?
Chilcutt.
We played. Mike come in the gym is Mike and 4 walk-ons.
What?
Man, 4 walk-ons. And you think, oh, we got this. So we beat them the first game, and King Rice was talking shit. And I was like, man, look, hey, King from New York. So he was talking trash, man.
Yeah.
Man, he pissed Mike off. Mike said, so and the deal was, if the college guys beat the pros, and I believe that's the rule still to today, the pro got to take college guys to dinner. Now, you know, college guys, you starve.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
You in college, but this is before we all got stipends and all that. We trying to look, Mike in town, we going to Slug. You know, we going to the best steakhouse in Chapel Hill.
Yes,
man, we beat that joker. That joker still owe us dinner, man.
Really? He ain't take care of the dinner yet?
He ain't take care of the dinner
yet.
Come on,
every time
Mike.
I see Mike, I say, man, you still owe me dinner, man. But
come on, Mike.
Yeah,
dinner.
So I know, man. So but the pickup games, man, they were unbelievable, man. You know, you have Kenny Smith, J.R. Reed at the time, you know, Brad Doherty, Sam Perkins, you know, all those pros coming back to, you know, share a little bit of knowledge.
I mean, did you feel like you belonged in that though?
I held my own. Yeah, I held my own. You know, because, you know, my freshman and sophomore year, you know, Scott Williams he played several years with the Bulls. You know, then Rick Fox, you know, playing. I got to play 3 years with Rick Fox. Pete Chilcutt was a pro. And you know, and Coach Smith, I mean, he coached us, man. I mean, I was prepared. I was ready to contribute when I got to an NBA team. It was just, one of those things where if you play in the ACC, I mean, you're going to have guys in the competition that you get every night. A lot of those guys was making it to the NBA. At least staying in the league 1 or 2 years.
And when I saw you play, George, I always thought you took pride in your defense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it's a funny story because my stepfather, who introduced me to the game, and when you know how when you go to the park, if it's older guys there, they ain't gonna pass the ball. You gotta play your role. You gotta wait your turn.
Yep.
So I was a little young cat. 12, 13. I come home one day and I'm complaining to my stepdad. Look, I don't like playing at the park. He was like, why? And I told him, I said, man, they don't pass me the ball. So he asked me, he said, can you play defense? I was like, yeah. He said, can you rebound? I said, yeah. But I was saying, yes, sir. And he said, well, can you dribble? I said, yes, sir. He said, can you shoot the ball? I said, yes, sir. He said, play defense, get the rebound, dribble up, and shoot it yourself. You ain't got to worry about that. So
I love it.
So I was like, all right. So then when I got to playing against kids who were good, I didn't always have to be the best scorer. And then, it's funny because then I got to North Carolina. Dean Smith told me the same thing. He said, you can be the best player on my floor without shooting the ball. So, I'm playing, my freshman years, Kevin Madden, McDonald's All-American, Pete Chilcutt, McDonald's All-American, King Rice, McDonald's All-American, Rick Fox, McDonald's All-American. Shit, Hubert Davis was probably the only one that wasn't a McDonald's All-American. And I'm like, man, I ain't gonna never get a shot.
Right.
So I started doing the other stuff. And I got playing time out of my freshman class. It was three other McDonald's All-Americans. Matt Winstrom, Kenny Harris, and Kevin Salvador. He wasn't a McDonald's All-American. But it was 3 McDonald's All-Americans in my class at North Carolina sitting on the bench with me. And I'm the only one playing.
Wow.
Yeah.
But what is that process like? I mean, you're McDonald's All-American, you go to Carolina, and truthfully, for any McDonald's All-American, when you go to a university, you expect to play right away. How did Coach convince you that you might not play?
Well, I think playing at Patrick Henry with guys who were also D1 players, going to Flint Hill and playing with guys who were McDonald's All-Americans before me and after me, I had to share the ball. I knew going to North Carolina, I wasn't going to average what I averaged in high school, 22 and 10 and 12. I knew I wasn't going to play the whole game. But, like you said, I played hard. And I try to tell kids nowadays, if you playing hard on both ends, you can't play a whole game. And so I just bought into it. And, I got a chance to go to 2 Final Fours. I won 1. So it paid off. And, played in the NBA for 12 years.
Absolutely. So talk about some of them guys you played with, man. You played with Rick Fox, Hubert Davis, Phelps. How was that college world for you?
Oh, it was great. It was great because, looking back at my high school career and the years I played high school, I was always around good players. I really never had to carry the load by myself. And winning cures all, man. I think if I'd have lost games, probably if I'd have been losing games, it'd probably have been a different story. I'd have had something to complain about. But we were winning, and we were beating good teams. I was watching one of the greatest coaches of all time in college basketball coach and draw up plays and you sit there and like, ain't no way in the world this gonna work. And it works. And he's sitting in the timeout and he's telling you what the other team is gonna do and what we're gonna do to counter, and it works. And then you look up in the stands and you see James Worthy, Michael Jordan, and you got all these stories that, I've had so many players that's better than you come through here
Wow.
I mean, it's a piece of humble pie.
Yeah, it is.
And I mean, it's just it's a surreal feeling, and it's I mean, it's just in the games that you play in the ACC, going to Cameron and playing in the Madison Square Garden, things like that. It was.
So how many times you beat Duke while you was there?
My freshman year, we beat them twice. I think my sophomore year, we split. My junior year, we split. And my senior year, we split.
Okay.
So I have a winning record against Duke, I believe. I might have to look at that, but I think I have a winning record against the Blue Devils.
I was going to bring up any of the Blue Devil stuff, but since Agee brought up some Blue Devil stuff, I ever said, man, and this is serious. I said, man, if I ever got an opportunity to talk to particularly guys from your class that played with you, I want to know, man, what was it like during that time when Duke wins back-to-back championships and Carolina is just down the road? What was that time like for you guys?
Man, look, it was when you lose to Duke, or Duke was playing in a tournament longer than you were, it was the worst days on campus. And it wasn't just for the basketball team. I'm talking about students, professors. I mean, that rivalry is so heated. Well, it was back then. Because when I first got to campus, they used to try and come to Chapel Hill and party and hang out with the Carolina girls. And man, King Rice and them Rick Fox, man, they weren't having that shit.
They wasn't even letting the dudes come down there and hang out, and y'all.
Man, it was they didn't want them. They didn't want them on campus. That's how bad it was. And I was like, serious? Now you go back and Duke guys playing in Chapel Hill. Man, King Rice. Look, when I was at, who was it? Like J.R. Reed, Steve Bucknall.
Wow.
King Rice. Those guys was not having that shit. It was. I was like, so you grow up in that. You spend the next 4 years, and that's what you see the rivalry, and then they win 2 back-to-backs. And the year they won it the first time, we kicked their ass like 3 times. And I'm like, hold on. So that was salt in the wound. And then my junior year, they win it again. And I'm like, oh shit, I got 1 year to win a national championship. So I spent the end of my junior year after they won it. All you see was Duke, back to back. And I'm in Chapel Hill, and I'm like, every workout, that was all I see. I mean, I wake up in the middle of the night. Wow. That's all I saw, So I was like, man, I got to get mine. Shoot.
Sam Cassell and Charlie Ward them at Florida State. Kenny Anderson them at Georgia Tech.
Yep. Florida State
and Grant Hill and them, man.
Yep.
Y'all, that time was talking about blue blood basketball. Oh, that was something to see on TV, man.
Yeah, that and it's crazy because in the whole state of North Carolina, and I didn't believe this until I got there and I saw it with my own eyes. Mm-hmm. During the ACC tournament, the elementary, middle school, and high schools would have TVs in the classroom watching the ACC tournament. It was no school going on that weekend.
Wow.
There was no school going on.
So they shut it down to watch the games.
Wow.
They shut it down to watch the ACC tournament. I was like, man.
It's crazy. What do you remember, man, from those days when you reflect on your college career and playing? What do you remember most?
I just remember the friendships because nowadays kids, they communicating with social media. I was a college coach for 2 years. The kids would be right beside each other, and they would rather text each other than talk.
Wow.
Yeah, they Snapchatting and texting instead of talking to each other. So it was the friendships. It was the guys picking you up to make sure you were on time to campus or meetings or training table meals, or there was the friendships that guys stayed in school longer. I'm friends with all the guys who were on those teams, especially the guys on that 93 team. We were so close. And still to this day, we all make sure that we check on each other. We reach out to each other for birthdays. And the whole Carolina family, we got a group chat where just about every player that ever played at North Carolina, when there's a birthday, a guy get a job or something good happened, or it was something bad, we checking up on, one another and letting each other know that, we got a brother that's going through some tough times.
I got to ask this though, man. You won a championship. Mike won a championship. Is there any inner rivalry, like guys who won championships versus guys who didn't win championships? A little trash talking going on.
I don't know if it's really trash talking, but the guys who played on those championship teams, other guys say we get treated a little bit better, and
So you try to tell me, George, you ain't never walked in and said, "Look up there."
Well, you know what? Phil Ford, when I was at Carolina, Phil Ford was rubbing it in because he had his jersey retired.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay. So you do have to look up in those rafters every day at practice, every day, every game. And guys remind you they got their jersey or they got hung certain titles. And you only get, they don't hang regular season championship banners up there. If you went to Final Fours, that's what they hang up there. And there's only a few of us can say we won a national championship while we were there. There's only 7 titles. And so I'm one of that few that has a championship banner that hangs in the rafters.
So again, do you ever point up there and tell somebody, "Look at that"?
When I go back, when I talk to I talked to the young guys this year before when Hubert got the job, and we pointed to the banner and say, "Look, man, this is what we're here for, to hang these banners. And if you're here for any other reason, you can pack your bag."
That's crazy.
I'm glad you brought that up too, man. What do you think about that? Hubert getting the job. I mean, I think it's amazing. I think it's great for the landscape of the game. But the fact that it was kept in-house, how do you feel about that?
Well, first, I mean, yeah, like you said, I was very excited and about them keeping the job in-house in the Carolina family. That's why I believe it should always be. And I'm sure Hubert will do a great job these next few years building his coaching tree to find the next successor after him. And a lot of guys were very happy to see that job stay in the family.
Didn't think about yourself for the gig or becoming an assistant coach there?
If Hubert called me today, man, I'll pack my bags. I'll be his assistant. So I'm available anytime that phone call comes.
The year y'all won it, dog, y'all get Arkansas, Corliss Williamson, Cincinnati, Nick Van Exel, Kansas. We had Rex Walters on the show. Give us a synopsis of game by game how y'all was feeling when y'all faced them teams.
It's funny because if you look back to 4 years, and you talk to guys who play competitive sports, they always find motivation somewhere or somehow. So my freshman year, we played Arkansas in Dallas. They beat us. And they might have beat us by 15, 20. So it left a sour taste in my mouth. So Kansas, 2 years before that, in Indianapolis, they beat us. And Michigan had beat us in Hawaii that same year.
Oh.
And then you look back and some of those teams, I wouldn't put all the motivation on them. But again, Duke had just won 2 back-to-backs. It was championship or bust for everybody on our team. We were not, we playing in the ACC. Duke is our biggest rivalry, and they rubbing back-to-back in our face every fucking day. Excuse my language. I don't know if I can say that on the podcast.
You good.
But so that was our fire, man. Coach, it was nothing Coach Smith could have said to us that would have had us more motivated to winning it in New Orleans. Then the fact that Coach Smith hadn't won it since 82, 83?
Yeah, right.
That was motivation. And like you said, Duke being 8 miles away, man, come on.
Ooh.
We knew we were a good team. We had been through the battles. We knew the ACC was the best conference in college basketball. We knew that, being able to win on the road in the ACC, being battle tested, like you said, Florida State, and then going on the road, we felt that if it was a close game, that it was nothing Coach Smith hadn't reviewed or went over throughout that year that we weren't going to be prepared for.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you saw it, man, I don't know how Hubert running his practice. I've only seen one practice. But guys, if you went to a Dean Smith practice, the details, I mean, it was ridiculous. It was crazy, unbelievable. The little things, like I'm gonna tell you ones we in practice. We in the ACC, in the middle of the ACC conference, and we always did this situational thing where Coach Smith would get the blue team was the second team, the white team was the starters. He would always put like 2 minutes on the clock. This was at the end of practice, 3-hour practice. All right, before we go home, situation. It was always a situation at the end of every practice. Out of bounds plays, sideline, whatever, free throw game, whatever. So we playing one game, and he get a blue team 10, 12 points with like 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 2.5 minutes on the clock. He said, come back.
What?
So we cut the lead down to 2 or 3 points. There's a loose ball. Donald Williams dives on the floor for this loose ball, and before he goes out of bounds, he calls timeout. He called a time. This is in practice. Man. This is after a 3-hour practice. We going hard. He puts us on the end line and makes us run because Donald Williams calls a timeout.
What?
Wow.
Get to New Orleans, same thing happened. Chris Webber using timeouts because they can't get the ball in bounds. Uses all their timeouts. We ended up winning the game because we took care of our
Wow.
That's right. And I'm glad you brought up that Michigan game. Because, man, we won't talk about that because, I mean, y'all playing the 5-5 and they had some good to great players on that team. Talk about that final game, man. Because, I mean, what was the mindset going into it? Because like you said earlier, you said y'all had already lost to them. So what was the mindset for this game?
We were up in Hawaii. We up 1 point. And remember, Coach Smith was all about details. We don't box out on a missed shot. Jalen Rose tapped the shot in at the buzzer to beat us by 1. Championship game in Hawaii. So we knew, we was like, look, if we don't make no mistakes, we take care, we do what we supposed to do, we going to win this game. And then we go through the Final Four, everybody talking about the 5-5, everybody talking about Kansas, Kentucky. We're like, look, man, we don't need no fanfare. We coming in here to win this thing. We're going to win it for Coach Smith. And that was all the motivation we needed. And again,
before you give us that, give us the guys that was on your team because people need to get the full context. It's you.
But check this out. Before the 5-5, Carolina had the 5-5. They had Montross, they had Derek Phelps, Brian Reese, Pat Sullivan, Clifford Rozier. Clifford Rozier. Yeah, man. So they had, and all 5 of those guys was McDonald's All-Americans, highly recruited, played a great high school program.
They was all 5. There was 5 freshmen.
5 freshmen came in together. So that was I don't know what they call them, the Fabulous 5, but it was 5 guys. So we were like, yo, we got our own 5-5. And like I said, man, we had Michelangelo, Dean Smith on the sideline. We had been battle tested. We played in the best conference in the in college basketball. Every night in and night out, we had to play. And then again, we lose to Michigan at the tap end of a buzzer. And I was like, look, man, this is my last ride. I got to win this. I'm trying to get drafted in the NBA. No telling what's going to happen if I don't win it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know where my draft status is going to be. But, we felt that we had just as good as team. They were more talented. I ain't gonna sit here and argue. You know, shit. They had, you know, Chris Webber, Jalen
Jimmy
Rose,
King, Ray Jackson.
Juwan Howard.
Yeah.
You know, they had their own. Yeah, they had a great team. But again, that's why you play the game, because, you know, they were young. I knew we had great leadership in myself. You know, we worked just as hard as any team in America. And like I said, man, we felt confident going in any game with Coach Smith on the sideline.
Yeah, and that point guard, Derek Phelps, wasn't no slouch, bro. That left-handed dude was orchestrating that squad.
Man, look, Derek could guard anybody in the league, in college basketball. You know. And like I said, he was from New York. He was savvy.
He had a little cockiness about him.
Man, shit. I take it. Look, I'm telling you, man. People ask me all the time, man, if you could choose a guard, what city would you get him from? Give me a New York City or East Coast guard any day of the week.
That's what's up.
Any day of the week. That's what I'm starting my team with.
Hey, let me ask you this though.
Love it.
The Michigan game at the championship. Did Chris Webber travel? I want to hear from you. You went a pad because you was right in front of him.
Man, he traveled, man. Man, Chris Webber traveled his ass. So
the referee was standing right there. Like he was like, he did his hands like this, like, I don't, what? He was like, what you mean? He just dragged it.
Man, that referee wasn't gonna call that. He was not gonna call that call.
And you chased him down to the corner. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, it's funny because people ask me all the time, did you hear anybody call it? Man, look, it was 60,000 people in that arena. But I tell you what, I heard more than one person say in timeout. Now I don't know if they didn't say we didn't have timeouts, but I heard timeout. And I believe I would have done the same thing, man. I wouldn't have done the same thing because Coach Smith scarred us from that day in practice. But any college player put in that situation would have called a timeout.
That was tough. Have you ever thought about that though? If because it's funny. My sons and I, we was talking about this, about you being on the show today, and I told them how sometimes it's amazing how one person's defeat, or whatever you want to call it, is another man's victory. Have you ever looked at it from that perspective? Like, man, if Chris Webber don't do what he did, but we have this championship.
Well, we were up, man. We were up. They would have to pull something out. They asked to win that game, man. Yeah, I think we had that one in the wrap, man. I don't know. But like you said, I mean, I believe that game was lost because they weren't prepared. If you go back and look at the game in Hawaii, their primary ball handler, Jalen Rose, was taking the ball out of bounds. And I told Derek Phelps, I said, listen, anytime Jalen takes it out, we're going to do a two-man press. Me and you. I get in front, you get behind. And if you look back at both games, and even a couple minutes before that, me and Derek was pressing Michigan with just two people. And because their primary ball handler was taking the ball out of bounds, they ain't had nobody to bring the ball up the floor. So I would say that was bad coaching.
But it was great coaching by Dean Smith, because first of all, Dean Smith always had you on the front of the press anyway, though, which I thought was interesting.
Well, you know, it wasn't by design.
Really?
I was a 4-year senior. I mean, four years senior. Pretty much started 4 years. Coach Smith gave me the freedom. Anytime I wanted to go trap, I could go trap. But I can only do that if Derek Phelps was playing defense the way he played. I broke the record for steals, and I have to give a lot of credit to Derek Phelps, because a lot of my steals was because he was putting pressure on the ball, and I would just shoot the gaps. So it was a lot of team defense, a lot of, you know, great players. Of course, I had Montrose back there. I'm like, shit, if they get by me, he gonna block the shot anyway. So why not take a chance?
That's right. Because he was a big monster back there. He was a big monster back there. Yeah, he was
huge, man.
So, man, listen, we do this thing, we call it halftime. AG and I are going to throw some questions at you, man, some quick hitters. So I'm going to hit you with this first one. 3 toughest stadiums to play that you played in college.
Definitely Cameron Indoor Stadium. I would say that had to be the toughest place. UVA, University Hall, was always tough in conference. And then, a lot of arenas, anytime Carolina came to town, they were packed. Playing at Florida State, too, was a tough arena.
Really?
Interesting. Florida State. All right. 3 toughest guys you ever had to guard in your NBA career.
NBA career, toughest guard. My number 1 would be Tracy McGrady. And I would say Tracy McGrady because he was like 6'9", 6'10". He could handle, shoot 3. Big dog Glenn Robinson was a tough guard. And Reggie Miller. I had to guard Reggie Miller my freshman year, man. I wanted to beat it. Man, I wanted to beat his ass, man. So check this out. So I'm guarding Reggie my rookie year, man. He run me off screens, right? And look, this dude hit me with an elbow, split my head. I had to get stitches right here, right?
What?
Yeah, man. And referees, if you're a superstar, they always gonna get a foul to the rookie. I'm like, this some shit, man. I'm gonna tell you, Reggie was so dirty, man. And I'm in LA, man. I'm playing with the Lakers.
Right.
I couldn't wait to see him at UCLA playing pickup. I wanted to whoop his ass, man.
Are you serious?
I wanted to fight him, man. And I wasn't a guy. I wasn't a guy that was gonna fight all the time, but I wasn't gonna back down because where I was brought up. I was like, man, I've been in a few fights. I ain't gonna back down.
Right.
Did you catch him?
Look, man, this dude, he had to remember how dirty the shit was. He came, as soon as he saw me, he came over to me and apologized.
Was you mad that he apologized?
Man, I was like, man, yeah, I was mad, man, because I was gonna get him back. I knew how to, when we grew up in the 80s and the 90s, they taught you how to play dirty without the referees knowing. I was gonna get him back. I played when I was the Lakers, I played with Sedale 3. Sedale had all the tricks. He'll teach you how to foul a guy, steal the ball. And that's the thing about the game today, man. These young guys, they ain't crafty with it no more. They got the flopping and all that, man. When we came through, them old guys, Buck Williams, Terry Cummings, man, shit, you had to know you had to have some tricks to get around them guys, man. And so I had a few tricks for him. I was gonna get him back. But he apologized, so I let it ride.
Right. Hey, G, this one of my halftime zingers at you. People want to know what type of music you listening to. Give me your three top artists.
Latest, man. Look, I'm a big Jay-Z fan. I love Jay-Z.
Okay. You get 3.
Man, I like. Okay, I ain't gonna. So no more rap. So Jay-Z on the rap scene. Shoot, man.
You look like you got some R&B in your head.
Yeah, I got some R&B, man. I like Maxwell. I listen to I like Khalid.
Okay.
I like that's more than 3. That's 3 right there.
Yeah,
I go with
3
them
right
2.
there.
Hit him with that other, AG.
Do you have a favorite brand of shoe to play in when you was in the league?
I was a Nike athlete, so I tell my kids, if it ain't Nike, I ain't paying for it.
I love it.
I know that's right.
Yeah.
Man, thank you for doing halftime with us. But now we want to get back to it. We know your time is short, but man, you get drafted. Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, we ain't talking about, an expansion team. We're not talking about,
Showtime.
You go from the heap of being Carolina pride to Showtime in LA, man. What was that transition like?
It was crazy, man. I mean, going out to LA, the fans in LA, man, being a Laker fan, I went from, North Carolina was a big blue bud, but it was still a small town college atmosphere. And then you go out to Hollywood, man, where all the stars. It was a lot to take in, man. And I was one of those older guys when I left college at 22. But still, being a small town from Roanoke, playing your ball in Chapel Hill, and then going out to LA playing for the Lakers. Unfortunately, at the time when I got there, they were rebuilding. And,
Yep.
but man, when Magic came back out of retirement, man, it was unbelievable, man. It was crazy.
So, Agee, all I heard him say was, I went to L.A., I was 22. What I really heard him say was, I was legal when I got to L.A. That's all I heard him say.
I can get in all the clubs, man. Hey, it was wild, man, because I look back on it now, and you in the club, and Suge Knight, and Tupac, and Snoop, and all of them in the club. And it's funny, man, because I look back on it now, man, you always hear, like, someone saying, hey, man, Suge Knight just came in. We got to get out of here. And it was crazy because, man, no, I'm serious. Every time Suge Knight came in the club, there was a shooting.
Get out of here.
Man, we just left that spot. Yep. And they're like, man, look. Like I said, I was in LA in the 90s, man. OJ on the freeway, all that, man. All that went on when I was in LA.
Hey, G, now y'all played, when you was there, y'all was still playing in the Forum, right?
Yes, still playing in the Forum. Yeah, it was crazy, man. I'll tell y'all some of them stories off record.
Off record, I hear that.
I have to tell me some of those stories off record.
So what was it like, man, playing with the Magic Man? Because he did come back, and he's Mr. L.A.
Exactly, he was Mr. L.A. He wasn't the Magic that the Showtime when they were winning with Kareem and Cooper and Byron Scott and James and all those guys, but he still had that rock star status.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you pull up and Magic's on the bus, the fans wanted to see him. It was another surreal moment, man. I must say, man, I was blessed in my basketball career to accomplish and be around some of the great players I had the opportunity to be around.
That team was interesting that y'all played with too.
Yeah.
But now you go from LA, the Lakers, Showtime, and you get traded. Is this one of the moments you really started learning about the business of the game?
Yeah, man, it's crazy because I'm doing a camp. I was doing a basketball camp in I think it was in Brentwood. For kids. I was doing a youth basketball camp, man. Jerry West's son is in the camp.
Wow.
And I know he dropped his son off. He could have came in and told me, look, man, we trading you.
Right.
After the camp, I get in the car and my girlfriend tells me, you just got traded. I'm like, what? That's how I found out. You got traded.
So there was no phone call?
No call from my agent. None of that, man.
Wow. So what when you hear this news, what are you thinking?
First, I'm pissed. You hurt because you thinking you go to LA, you're gonna be there all your whole basketball career, and then you think about, man, hold on, he could have came in and told me, look, George, we're gonna trade you. I need to talk to you. Yeah. Oh no, it was none of that, man. That's the business side of basketball. Deals are done. Players don't know about it. Players have no say.
Right.
That's crazy.
But I couldn't be mad at them. I mean, they traded me, and they got Shaq. So I'm like, shit, I would have made that trade too.
Yeah, they get Shaq, but they send you to Vancouver. Did you think you were? Yeah. You're like, man, y'all sending me to Siberia. I was looking
at the time. At the time, I was looking at it as an opportunity. I'm gonna play more. I'm going to Vancouver. I'm gonna get all the minutes. Then I get up there and realize I'm in a whole different country. It was nothing I expected, man. It was nothing I expected.
You go from 75 to 82 every day to it gets cold here.
Yeah. Well, it rained most of the time, man. It was just raining in an overcast. The people were nice. The team was, good. I mean, it had great teammates. But it was just every time you leave the country, you had to go back through customs, and that was the worst part of it.
Now, you were there for 2 years, right? 2 seasons?
2 years,
The 2 seasons there.
Mm-hmm.
Any memories from them 2 seasons there that you's like, man, you know what? I made some good relationships with these guys.
Well, you do make good relationships because, again, you're in a different country, and the only Americans there are the ones on the basketball team, and most of the front office. So you do spend a lot of time, you know, when you in a different country, you tend to, you know, I had some good veterans. You know, I was still a young guy at that time. Lee Mayberry, Blue Edwards.
Lee Mayberry.
Yeah, we had some good times, man. You know, families get together, barbecue, and a lot of good time together.
I just want to ask you, man, about what you're doing with the HBCU, man, because I love what you're doing with that. And obviously we want people to support the HBCU heroes. And then my guy got a last question for you. I
spent 2 years at Clark Atlanta. That was my first opportunity as the head coach. And while I was there, you know, there's a big difference between what the white schools or PWIs have compared to what historically Black colleges have, and especially if you're an athlete. And we started HBCUs to help level the playing field for student athletes at all HBCUs, not just at Clark or, you know, Morehouse, you know, whatever. And during the pandemic, you know, there was a need for laptops and computers. So we went out, we was raising funds, you know, reaching out to corporate partners to get laptops to student athletes. And then after we were able to do some of that, we wanted to help all students at HBCU. So if you're a student, no matter what color you are, white, Black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever, everyone goes to an HBCU. And we try to help students at disadvantage. And we can be reached. We on all social media platforms, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And a lot of if you go on our TikTok and our Facebook, a lot of the content is produced by students at HBCUs. So a lot of creative students there helping us get the word out. And, you know, any support, donations, laptops, computers, whatever, we try to make sure that that our students get what they need to finish their education.
And they can be reached at through, is it hbcuheroes.org?
So yes, and it's all if you go on any of the social media platforms and put in HBCU Heroes, will come up.
Applaud you guys for doing that with the HBCUs. But my last question to you, man, I know you did some coaching down there, and you into some other entrepreneurial things. But what's the next chapter in George's hoop dream?
I have a 15-year-old, man, and trying to get him to be a player, man. He's one of them kids that shoot the ball 50 feet out, and I'm trying to get him to take the ball to the basket. So I would definitely like to continue the coaching endeavor, whether it's at the college, NBA, high school, and then, like you said, I've ventured out in some other ventures, man. One of my teammates from the Lakers, we have a CBD product called Legends Brand, and we're trying to launch that. We're waiting on Congress to pass all the laws that they need to pass. Come on, Congress, get the job done. But we're more on the health and wellness side. We're not on it. We're not doing the recreation side. You know, when we played, you know, and every morning I get up, pain management, sleep, you know, there's a lot of good benefits from CBD. So we got a great group of chemists and people working on different ways to make that, put that to good use.
I'm the goat of my era. I've been a trending topic. I'm as fly as a feather. My pocket's macroscopic. See, with time I get better. I'm always in the action, kid. Know I got it locked from Chicago where the toughest live. Concrete jungle, earn my stripes on the pavement there. You make it here, then you can make it anywhere. No comparison. Your game is embarrassing. No one can touch me. I'm all for going there again. Yeah, I think I'm ballin' like I'm Will Gates. I'm hoop dreaming, trying to fight against a sealed fate. More faith, think I'm ballin' like I'm Martha Agee. I'm box office and one day they gon' have to pay me. Yeah, I think I'm ballin' like I'm Will Gates. I'm hoop dreaming, trying to fight against a sealed fate. More faith, think I'm ballin' like I'm Martha Agee. I'm box office and one day they gon' have to pay me.
Hoop Dreams the podcast, an Unlearning Network production. Written and produced by Arthur Agee, Will Gates, Matt Hoffar, with audio engineering from Matt Savage. For more episodes, check us out at www.unlearningnetwork.com.
Gotta be a dog to survive in this cold weather. Ice in my veins, no need for a warm sweater. I'm coming for it all, best believe I won't let up, yeah. Hey, I think I'm ballin' like I'm Will Gates. I'm hoop dreaming, trying to fight against a sealed fate. More faith, think I'm ballin' like I'm Martha Agee. I'm box office and one day they gon' have to pay me. Yeah, I think I'm ballin' like I'm Will Gates. I'm hoop dreaming, trying to fight against a sealed fate. More faith, think I'm ballin' like I'm Martha Agee. I'm box office and one day they gon' have to pay me.